Well, hi guys, Alex Forrest here, vlogging to you from Zakopane in Poland. Before I get on to the Weasel 101 of today, is she out of my league, I thought I'd take you down memory lane, or well, at least take myself down memory lane. Believe it or not, this is where I came with Tom Torero probably 6 or even 7 years ago, and we stayed in this hotel together. You can read all about the episode that I had down here in Zakopane in the Tatra Mountains in Poland in my book, obviously. Ka-ching, plug. It's a chapter called Zakopane Hell, and I find myself reflecting on what Tom would think about where I am in terms of my dating adventures today, this weekend, mid-January 2025. Now, I've got quite an interesting story to tell you guys. I've met someone, and it's quite interesting the circumstances in which I met her. It's happened, difficult to credit it really, but only a couple of weeks ago, and it's one of those sort of interesting serendipitous things about this stuff, is when you close one door, another opens. To cut a long story short, we've been dating for the past couple of weeks, and I took her down here to Zakopane for a long weekend. And yeah, she is a class act, frankly, and that's why the topic of this Weasel 101 is she out of my league, which I'll come on to in just a second, as I say. What is it about her? It's not just I find her stunningly attractive and she totally ticks my boxes, and she's a lovely brunette, 20 years younger than me. It's the way she carries herself, the way she dresses. She's smart, not just beautiful. It was interesting. I had a couple of sort of funny situations. About 10 days ago, we went for a date in the old town, and I had a girl come up to me and say, "Hey, are you Alex Forrest?" And she said, "I've read your book." In fact, it was an old editor, and she looked at my dates and she went, "Aha, you're beautiful," she said. That, and as if that makes sense. Too late, the man from Too Late Mate. So that was kind of a cool little moment. And and I was talking to a mate as well, having a cup of coffee about a week ago, and showed a couple of photographs. He was like, "Whoa, mate, you should put her on the channel. It'd double your business." But it's not just the way, as I say, she looks, it's just who she is. And what's been so interesting about this, after the difficulties of these two girls that I've been dating over the past year, is it's like, effortless. I mean, the way she's classy is that she communicates affection sort of naturally on messaging as well as in person. She communicates sincerely, and if she's feeling affectionate, she lets me know. It's quite a novelty actually, after having, what's the word, as manfully as I can, dance the dance with other girls in Poland. In fact, she's not Polish, interestingly. So it's been a rather beautiful couple of weeks, and an absolutely fantastic weekend, staying in a lovely hotel here together and teaching her a bit of skiing. So I think Tom would be, he'd be proud. I think he'd roll his eyes and say, "Oh, about bloody time, mate." But he'd say, yeah, he'd be proud. He'd go, "Whoa." And interestingly, this street here that I'm walking up was a critical chapter in the Too Late Mate adventure. And in that chapter, Zakopane Hell had this rather funny episode, I was still pretty green around the ears. So anyway, we were walking back to the hotel down this street, and there was suddenly appeared this lovely pink marshmallow. She was in a big pink all-body ski suit. She was a Belarusian, as I recall. She might have been a Ukrainian. Anyway, she was Eastern European. And Tom nudged me, like, "You can approach her, mate." And I was like, "Oh no," I was feeling like, "Oh no, I can't do it," sort of thing. And so he ran off like a jackrabbit, and he approached her. Had a terrific approach, got a telephone number. It had turned out that she was here with a ski party, but they'd all gone back the day before, and she was at a complete loose end. And I remember going back to the hotel on my own and sort of watching the hands of the clock tick round the hours, starting to fume and seethe and bubble with envy that Tom was out having a wild time with this Eastern European girl. And I remember he finally came back and sat down and told me the full adventure, and it had been, you know, really some adventure. It was such an interesting story in a way, because it was like, as is so often the case, it's not like the guys think that they are making it happen, but actually it's the girl who is letting the guy make the moves. And in a way, she's really guiding the whole dating dance, and she actually just wanted, you know, some adventurous sex before she went back, and she kind of kicked him out afterwards. And looking back on those times, you know, I got proper kind of angry with myself, beating myself up about having not jumped through an open window that had been presented to me, and that Tom had jumped through it instead. To segue into the topic of She's Out of My League, I've been thinking about that quite a lot over the past couple of weeks with this girl, and just wondering, what is it I mean? What is it we mean when we decide, when we make that sort of inner decision, or go with that inner idea that the girl is out of our league? I think the first thing that occurs to me is that a woman has needs. I mean, although when I'm with this girl and we're walking down the street and I see guys pass and check her out, she seems like a class act, and I feel like a schoolboy, you know. It's funny how it takes you back across the years to your childhood and those first sort of clumsy attempts at romance. So although there is all of that going on, and in many ways for me, it goes all the way back to public school, when the only romantic pseudo semi-sexual experience that I had was paying 50 pence to this blonde beauty called Hannah Woodhouse for a haircut. That was as close as I got, age 14. So there's this kind of putting girls on a pedestal thing that I think happens, that I think guys take from their childhood. You know, it's an idea that they've had, particularly for me, at an all-boys boarding school with about 5% girls. They've just been drip feeding girls to make the school a co-ed school. So I think this out of my league thing is often an issue for guys who've not had had a little bit of a closeted upbringing, maybe a sort of religious type upbringing. Maybe they've been to an all-boys boarding school. You know, there aren't that many guys actually at that age in their teens who kind of have a father figure or an uncle or an older brother, or are kind of very social and are meeting a lot of girls. Maybe those are the guys who are the big players in their teens and their 20s. And so there's that, which isn't really got anything to do with the league. It's not like, you know, a football league. She's a better football player than you are, or anything like that. It's more that you've put yourself into a place where you see the world, the feminine world of beauty, as a league table. That's where you've put yourself in, or rather that your surroundings as well, which you've not questioned and simply adopted. It's kind of where you've put yourself. So it's not so much that those girls are in another league, it's that you've put yourself in a league table. You've set up a system, a point of view where you are making comparisons between yourself and the fairer sex. But of course, interestingly, girls don't, particularly these attractive girls, they really don't see it this way. And actually, at the end of the day, they're women with needs, particularly the attractive ones. You know, perhaps they decided to come into this world, into this life, and choose the attractive girl card. They've decided to play that role in order to attract men into their lives. And their sexual needs are at least as deep as a man's, particularly where they're making a connection. It's like just they're a different person in the bedroom than when they're out on the street amongst the rest of the world. So actually, the girl herself, what I'm trying to say, isn't putting herself in a particular league. She's just, desperately looking for a guy who's going to give her the sense of connection, who's going to have at least a modicum of horse sense when it comes to dating, when it comes to looking after her and conducting themselves in the right way. That's the critical thing, obviously. It's not how the guy looks, it's the way he conducts himself around the girl. And, they are just as full of sexual needs as us guys are. But when it comes to a romantic context, I think this is what the blooming feminists forget. When it comes to, or whatever the word is now, for whatever feminism has morphed into, when it comes to the romantic context, when it comes to boy meets girl, she wants you to be the boss. And what you've got to do, and this is in a way the takeaway from this vlog and this issue of Is She Out of My League, she wants you to man up and lead and be the boss. And it's a process, and it doesn't happen necessarily with one girl. It doesn't happen overnight because it takes a long time to unplug from the matrix. How do you unplug from the matrix? How do you unplug from this world perspective that some girls are in a lesser league than you are, and some girls are in a higher league than you are? You take action, and you be the boss that she wants you to be. If you live in a world where you're putting all these girls in the league table, you may decide, well, I'm only sleeping with girls who are in a higher league than me. You might start to have these sorts of stupid prejudices. Tom was a great role model, a good example, set a good example in this respect, because he spread the love. I mean, you can make a moral judgment if you like about the number of girls that he slept with, but he wasn't like precious about, oh, she's hot, so I want to sleep with her. In fact, this particular Eastern European girl that we met in Zakopane, she was a real princess, and Tom wasn't really that into her, even though she was very, sexy and good looking. Tom was into, when it came to mini relationships, was into, making connections and discovering the, enjoying the variety that there was out there, and specifically not putting girls into league tables. Now, there's nothing wrong, of course, with wanting to and enjoying the company of beautiful women. Yeah, but often a beautiful woman is a woman who owns her femininity and acts like a beautiful woman. Just like a guy mans up and acts like a man and leads and is the boss, So a girl who owns her femininity, even though technically you see her on a photograph, she might not look stunning, when you meet with her, her feminine charisma is such that you're massively attracted to her. I've dated quite a few girls like that, and I'm sure you guys have, where at first blush they may appear attractive, but when you get to know them, it's not quite the same. So yeah, she's out of my league. The only way you're going to dispel the ignorance around that concept, that worldview, that idea that you've chosen to own, chosen to believe without proper and rigorous reflection, is not by sitting on the psychiatrist's couch, not by reading books, not by watching blogs. It's by doing what people like Tom Torero encouraged us men all to do. I mean, he used to say 5, 10, max 20% reading, watching videos. The rest should be out there taking action. That is the step. But you don't need to put a whole lot of pressure on yourself. Just, today go up to a girl and express your interest in her, make an observation about her with confidence. Propose, I've got 20 spare minutes, meeting a friend later, let's grab a coffee, get to know each other better. The more that every time you lay that sort of mini foundation stone in your dating life of taking action in that way, all the way to what you're doing in the bedroom, you are gradually dissolving and dispelling and banishing the misconceptions, the ignorance and delusions around there being a league table at all. And then you'll start to just enjoy a beautiful woman without even needing to think about the fact that she's beautiful and you feel intimidated about approaching her. I mean, if you saw if you're in a woods and you saw a beautiful bunch of bluebells or flowers, you might go out and look at them and pick the flower and smell the flower and enjoy the flower, like a bee. You might pollinate the flower. The point is, why add all this extra nonsense around league tables? Because when you are struggling or in doubts about approaching a girl and you don't approach the girl and you don't man up, you are reinforcing or rather accepting that perspective of league tables. She's hotter than me. I was a teenager once, a spotty teenager once, who felt dazzled when he was in the company of a beautiful girl, and now forevermore I'm going to be in this world where I'm here and she's there. It's interesting. I'm not a particularly wealthy guy. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not George Clooney, because this is a misconception. You often feel that in order to get the hot girl, in order to get a girl that's out of your league, you need to do a whole load of crazy things. You need to become rich or famous. It'll only work if you're a manager or a coach or in a position of authority. None of those things were. I mean, this girl doesn't know really very much about me at all. All of these things are guys are deceived into believing that they need to acquire those things. It's simply not true that, and the proof is in the pudding today, that a guy in his 50s needs to have all the trappings of life in order to get a genuinely classy girl into his life. I hope you've had a great start to 2025, and never give up. The only real obstacle in the way of success in this area of your life is giving up. The last 2 to 3 years I've kind of been wondering when I would actually find a genuinely attractive girl who's younger than me, with whom I hit it off. And it could be, just as it was for me, something that really is just around the corner. Keep working and strap on those balls, you bastards. Anyway, so I'm feeling a little bit smug today. As we all know, things can change, but you know, enjoy the moment, celebrate the moment, acknowledge the success, because you know, if down the track times get rocky, you'll have some real positive reference experiences to draw on to get you through and to keep you moving forward.